Guys, welcome to Double Shot of Steelers. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. Just got back from the South Side covering the Steelers' final full session of the week in preparation for their home opener against the Seahawks. That takes place Sunday, 1:02 p.m. at Acrisure Stadium, and it'll likely, almost certainly, take place with Nick Herbig participating. Herbig confirmed with a little bit of a smile on his face when he talked to us in that he is, quote, very optimistic, end quote, that he'll be available for the game Sunday. I was just, as we came on, typing up our injury report, the formal injury report that the team put out. That was only about 5 minutes ago. Alex Highsmith was added for the first time as a limited participant because of an ankle injury. I wouldn't sweat that one too much. Highsmith, the way he plays in his history, he tends to carry a lot of parentheses around with him, if you know what I mean. But then once the ball flies, you'll see that he's on the field. So I think this team is going to be pretty close to full strength. The guys who are ruled out of the game were ruled out a long time ago. That's Deshaun Elliott, Derek Harmon, and Joey Porter. Absolutely no surprises on any of those fronts. No surprises, really. I thought in the locker room experience that I had today, I was taking the temperature mostly of some defensive guys, trying to get a sense for what they expect of themselves. And trust me, you do this long enough, you're not dumb enough to go around asking about X's and O's. What you're looking for is mindset, approach. And these guys are ready to pin their ears and get after it. And I can't applaud that any more than I can pan whatever in heck Terrell Austin and or Mike Tomlin put out on the field with their own X's and O's last week in New Jersey. Made no sense. You have TJ Watt on this team. You have Jalen Ramsey on this team. You go get it. Everyone loved what Ramsey did at the end of the game, and they should. It was fantastic stuff. But the reason he's able to do that is he's allowed to do that. He's got himself a license to kill. This is a risk of sounding excessively dramatic, but that's the way he makes plays. There's a lot of different ways he could have approached Garrett Wilson there. He chose violence, as they say. He chose to separate him, not just from the football, but from his senses. That's the way this defense needs to play. It can't be sitting back, seeing what happens. Well, if they make it through this gap, then do this. If they do that, then do this. I asked Jalen point blank after the practice. Well, here, you'll hear it yourself.
Jalen, do you feel like this defense is at its best when it's most aggressive?
Yeah, I think that not just this defense. I think that's for any defense in the NFL. I think when you are able to play aggressive, it works in your favor. But obviously, you have to meet the aggression with the right execution and things like that. So that's what we're looking to do a little bit better this week than we did last week.
I love the fact that he had to edit himself there at the end. Meet the aggression with the right level of execution. It sounds like the coaches have been talking to him like, we love you. We love what you do. Just don't get burned. Don't get beat. And what he does has a real value to it. If you do it early in a football game, it has that much more value to it because you're making the other guys think instead of allowing a nothing offense to start feeling good about themselves the way the New Jersey guys did. That never had to happen. As it was, if you saw Justin Fields' quotes after the game, he wasn't saying anything at all disrespectful. To the contrary, he was saying, look at that defense over there. Look at all those names. Look at those Hall of Famers and everything. And did you see how we moved the ball on them? He had every right to say that. He's not bragging, boasting, anything. He's trying to pick up a team that's been down for a long time. But to my point, he's feeling it. the reason that he's feeling it is that the other guys were just, ooh, look at you. We're afraid of you. And then they stand back. There's no need for that. There's no need for that at all. Guys, when we come back, we're going to be joined by Chris Halleck, and we're going to talk about a whole lot of stuff, including the Seahawks themselves, as we get ready for Sunday's home opener.
At DK Pittsburgh Sports, we take pride in coverage that connects our city's fans to their favorite teams. Now, that connection's stronger than ever. Introducing our all-new state-of-the-art app. Find expert inside reporting and original podcasts. Check live box scores. Track the latest stats. Chat it up with our community of thousands of fans, all in one place. The new app from DK Pittsburgh Sports. Coverage that connects.
Welcome back, guys. Going to joined now, as promised, by Chris Halleck. Hi, Chris.
What is going on? How are you?
We've actually had a really busy day, down here. In addition to everything else that's gone on, so it's been a little but it's been a really good kind of busy. Most busies are good busies, and this one we're starting to get the people coming in from around. You know how that goes around the continent, coming in a little early. They're doing the Pittsburgh tourism thing. A lot of the season ticket holders, for those of you who don't know, don't live anywhere near Western Pennsylvania. I'm not just talking about Pittsburgh, like the city.
Yeah. Like
nowhere near here. So what a lot of them will do, especially when the weather is still nice as it is they'll come out and they'll bounce around and they'll see the sights. We had somebody in just now. They're heading up to the incline after they saw us. I mean, it's got to be a little disappointing, though, for them. I mean, they come here and you see all this at our headquarters, and then it's, oh, yeah, okay, here's the 150-year-old incline and the world-class view. But it's been nice. It's been really nice to see a lot of these Steelers fans. It's starting to make the whole thing feel real. You and I were saying we were up in New Jersey. We were walking to the stadium. It doesn't feel like a season opener when you're in somebody else's stadium, you know?
No, it doesn't. I think I remember the 22 season, which was my first season on the beat, and that one felt a little bit different because they were in Cincinnati. It's AFC North. But, yeah, when you're walking up to that stadium that looks like an RV, it's kind of like it's the NFL season really starting, and then the actual football happens, and you're like, oh yeah, here it is. But yeah, no, it's definitely got a different feel. The team is in a they're in their normal day in day out routine, and yeah, it feels like we're in the season now.
Let's talk a little about the Seahawks. We haven't done that yet. Really at all this week. Sam Darnold is now the quarterback there instead of in Minneapolis. He kind of found a way to spin off the musical chairs that we were all following closely because we all thought everybody was going to be the Steelers quarterback at some point over the springtime. Darnold ends up in Seattle. Darnold did not have a great game. Neither did the Seattle offense in its opening loss to the 49ers, scoring only 13 points, 242 total yards. Darnold was 16 of 23 for 150 yards. The running backs didn't do anything. Nobody wants to hear this, right? You want to hear that they're going to be great, give you a tough challenge, and let's show them some respect. The only guy on that side of the football for the Seahawks that concerns me is Jackson Smith-Njigba, and he showed the 49ers why.
Yeah, he's a pretty dynamite receiver. Yeah, well, I mean, when the Seahawks had both him and DK Metcalf, that's potential for some pretty big plays. But no, Smith-Njigba is going to be a heck of a guy for them. But yeah, they're in transition a bit. Mike McDonald brought in Clint Kubiak to be the new offensive coordinator. Who, for anybody who remembers, that was a name that people really, really in Pittsburgh, like fans of the Steelers, really wanted the team to hire when they were looking for an offensive coordinator. Obviously, they hired Arthur Smith. And Clint Kubiak ended up going to the Saints. That did not work out. That lasted for 1 year, and now he's in Seattle. But then, you talk about new offensive coordinator, new quarterback. The offensive line is still, the offensive line last year was really, really bad for them. And it's still a big question mark at best for them right now. So when you take all those things into account, especially since it's the fact that it's not like and I'm not trying to say the Steelers are in a better situation or anything like that, but when you talk about that, it's not an Aaron Rodgers type. It's not a guy who's got a boatload of experience, who's been doing this for a long time. It's Sam Darnold, who, he's been in the league for several years, but he's also only had success really one season. And so it's hard to kind of gauge what the potential is for the Seahawks offense. Their defense is a completely different story.
Yeah, from the standpoint of the offense that they have, it's not something that's going to electrify you again, other than I really think a lot of Smith and Jigba, and have for a long time, would not have minded seeing him end up in Pittsburgh to really call that like it is. And I'm not saying that in hindsight. It's a little easier in hindsight, given the way that draft went. But I am looking at these defensive guys to get back there and be disruptive. People hear blitz. You hear the word blitz, and you think of, for lack of a better way to describe it, the old Kevin Green, Greg Lloyd approach. I'm here, he's here. Let's destroy the quarterback. Whoever gets to him first gets the sack. Not that those guys need to be identified as blitzes. Blitzes can involve anybody, obviously. In fact, the surprising the participant in the blitz, the more effective the blitz more often than not. But we can also talk about run blitzes. We can also just talk about being closer to the line of scrimmage. We can talk about doing things that just put you in more command of your own destiny. Is that really what it's about, Chris, more so than just a pure terminology of the blitz?
Yeah, some of it is... It's hard to, because like with blitzes, it really is just defined, especially when you're talking about rushing the passer. It really is defined as, are there more than 4 people coming? If so, it's a blitz. If there's 5, 6, 7, it doesn't matter. If there's 4 or less, it's not a blitz. If there's 5 or more, it's a blitz. Run blitzes are a little bit more not as defined, because there are already, usually at least 7 guys in the box, unless you're really, really running a light box. But then you can use a number of different guys to come in from different angles. When the Steelers made the in-game adjustment against the Jets, you saw more guys, I'd say, closer to the line of scrimmage, and even like their first steps were a little bit more aggressive. And the offense already knows where it's going when they snap the ball, and it's up to the defense to react to that. But when the defense can try to do things that make the offense play on their heels, even just a tiny little bit, that can give you a huge advantage. It could, give you provide a situation in which they were planning to double team Cam Hayward, and now because you're blitzing a guy through the B gap, maybe that guard or whoever cannot double team Cam because he has to pick up the blitzer. So that leaves him solo, and you always like when Cam Hayward is left one-on-one with a guy. So there are a number of ways to do it, but I think they need to do a little bit more of it. And what we saw in the latter stages of the Jets game kind of shows the reason why.
We're getting a lot of participation, alignment, injury questions here, so I'm going to revisit this. I was over there covering practice today. Chris did all kinds of work himself. He did it from his spectacular home office. Resplendent, I think, is the term that you're looking for.
Yeah.
If you're ever looking for one to describe the home office. Resplendent. I couldn't even spell that one. I can spell a lot. I don't think I could spell resplendent. Out for the week, repeating this now on the official injury report, are the same 3 guys we've known all along we're going to be out. And that's Deshaun Elliott, Joey Porter, Derek Harmon. A limited participant for the first time this week was Alex Highsmith with an ankle injury that had not been previously anything. I don't anticipate that Alex is going to miss anything. I think Alex is going to be just fine. Alex is in a constant state of being banged up. And that's not a knock. I think Alex was born with the parentheses after his name. You know, Alex is, but I say that, but Alex is also nails tough, and he'll be out there because he can be out there. Nick Herbig was a full participant for a second consecutive day. Herbig is going to play. He had a little bit of a smile on his face when he was asked point blank if he's going to play, and he said, "I'm very optimistic," quoting directly, and then went on to talk about things that the Steelers have to get done this week to become more themselves defensively. I believe, and I swear to you, I'm not reporting something off practice or anything like that here, but when you don't have a Joey Porter and you have this team set up, this defense set up the way it's been set up by the head coach, aka the defensive coordinator, then you're probably going to see Jalen Ramsey find a way to be somewhere near Smith and Jigba. And that's certainly what I would do. I don't know that. I don't, again, not telling on anything from practice for real. But I that is what I would be doing. I would take my guy who I have already told weeks in advance, you're our man. You're going to be the one who gets all the big assignments. You're going to be the one who gets to do this, that, and that, whatever. And he loves it. He soaks it up. He rises up. We saw it powerfully on that turf in East Rutherford. If that's the main player you got to shut down, why not have your best guy shut him down?
Yeah, absolutely. That's, I mean, he was already going to be doing that most of the time anyway, but now when you don't have a Joey Porter Jr. and the Seahawks are a little, I don't want to say like really, really lacking, but it's kind of one guy. It's kind of the same situation as last week. It's kind of, you know, for the Jets, it's Garrett Wilson, then everybody else. For the Seahawks, it's Smith and Jigba, then everybody else. So yeah, that should be where Jalen Ramsey goes. At the same time, I think you can use Darius Slay on him a bit too, mainly because you don't want to just limit Ramsey to island work. You want to be able to use him in a number of different ways. You want to be able to use him as a blitzer sometimes. You want to be able to use him even back, you know, possibly ball hawking as a free safety. Sure, you want to be able to shut down that guy that can take a lot of chunks out of your defense, but you also don't want to, just as you're trying to neutralize that player, you don't want the Seahawks offense to neutralize a potential playmaker in other areas of the field than just outside the numbers covering a receiver all day long. So, I'd like to see that, but good. Also good on Herbig and Highsmith, obviously for getting. They didn't have any injury designation, so they're playing on Sunday. So that's good that the Steelers are getting, or at least keeping Highsmith and getting Herbig back.
James Fairfield says, "Make Darnold pass." This is what you needed to do last week. I don't want to keep revisiting this, but it's. I'll let it go. I swear, I'll let it go. But they need to remember at least how dumb that was. When you're facing an opponent, and I'm going to repeat from Darnold's stats against the 49ers, that he completed 16 total passes out of 23 attempts, 16 completions in the National Football League.
Yeah.
You want him throwing the football. You want him throwing the football to people not named Jackson Smith-Njigba. This is not all that layered, just like it wasn't last week. The other guys ran it up the flagpole that they were going to run on you. And it still wasn't enough to keep the Steelers from trying to out-clever themselves defensively. Useless Knowledge says, please, please, please blitz. It's not just blitzing, though. It's not just who you bring up to the line. This was the point that I was just making here. It's about being a little bit closer, about being just a little bit more aggressive. Don't worry about as much about committing or overcommitting or overselling as you do about, oh no, what if we give up a big one? Over the course of the 3 hours, your mindset's going to pay off. Joey Bosa, Chris, from the 49ers, of course, spectacular defensive player of theirs. After the game against Seattle, these same Seahawks, was quoted as praising Robert Saleh, who's now the coordinator for San Francisco again after a few years with the other Jets as their head coach. He's back there in his old DC role. And that's all. He just said, Coach just had us go at him. It was just super aggressive. We loved it. We got into it. We bought into it, and we sold out. That's okay. Not everything has to be it's living in your fears. It's keeping Minka 50 yards off the ball.
I think the big thing is, I think because the Steelers ended up with only one sack last week, that we're under the assumption that they didn't try to get to Fields. It's quite the opposite. In truth, they had a 34% blitz rate last week and a 50% pressure rate, which was second best in the NFL in week 1. They got there. They got back there. Justin made plays with his legs. Sam Darnold will not make the same plays with his legs. If they can have the same success of applying pressure on Sam Darnold, they will get him to the ground more often than they got Justin Fields to the ground. It's just Sam Darnold's not the same. It doesn't have the same mobility as Justin Fields. Very few quarterbacks do. Maybe only Lamar Jackson and Kyler Murray have that type of mobility. But to your point, they do need to be more aggressive against the run, because that will help you get into a situation where you're making the Seahawks more one-dimensional. If you can stop the run, this is just basic fundamental football. Stop the run, force the offense to be one-dimensional, put them in 3rd and long, put them in 2nd and long, put them in situations where they need to throw more often than run the ball. Then those guys up front can pin their ears back, and they can call blitzes, they can do whatever, and they can get to the quarterback much more often. But it all starts with, can they stop the run? And while the Seahawks have, their offensive line is a pretty big question mark, they've got a pretty decent duo at running back with Walker and Charbonnet. So it's going to be on this defense to once again try to prove to everybody that they can stop the run, whether that's just guys just winning blocks regardless of scheme, or if that's also the offense or the defensive coordinator and head coach getting them in better situations to be able to stop the run.
Garrett Slingerland says Darnold isn't a threat to a run threat himself, so they'll be able to focus on the actual running backs this week. I don't know. See, then there's the other thing. Just tackle people. We do talk a lot about schematics. We talk a lot about approaches and stuff like that. There's also just tackling people. I don't know that Sunday represented some sea of missed tackles. We've seen that in the past.
No,
this wasn't that.
No,
this was more getting beaten on blocks before you even had an opportunity to make a tackle, as it applies to what's going on up front. But as Balo says here, they should make Seattle prove they can beat them through the air. Dare them to do so. Yeah, do that stuff that the Steelers were getting. Remember in the Matt Canada years, those hilarious 12-man fronts, 13-man fronts? They would bring the coach and the GM out on the field too to try to stop your run. It was laughable when you'd see it. But the Steelers kept trying to run into it, like as if it was a cement wall, and that was their forehead. Let's flip to the other side of the ball here and talk a little bit about Seattle's defense, which is a different story, isn't it, Chris?
Oh yeah, listen, they've got a heck of a front seven. They're going to get after the Steelers both in the run game and trying to pressure Aaron Rodgers. They now, granted, they are a bit banged up.
Secondary,
we have yet to see what the final injury report's going to be, but Devin Witherspoon didn't practice on Wednesday or Thursday. That would be a pretty big loss for the Seahawks defense, for sure. They are if they cannot pretty much lock down the receivers early, like in the first couple of seconds, Rodgers is just going to get rid of the ball. They're going to call a lot of really quick passes and try to operate in the quick game to protect Aaron, number one. But if the Seahawks are unable to cover the way they normally can, then pressure on the quarterback, all the Broderick Jones talk and all that stuff might not matter. Aaron Rodgers had a really, really low time to throw average last week. And if the and useless knowledge says the dink and dunk game, and I almost don't like that terminology because it comes with a negative connotation to it, but it's just the quick game. It's 3-step drop, ball comes out, you get a 6-yard completion. Everybody will take 6 yards on 1st and 10. Every offense in the league will take that. Yeah.
The other thing that comes up here, and it's amazing to me that we're 25 minutes and 38 seconds into this show without bringing up his name, but that's that you're going to have to do something to address Broderick Jones.
Yeah.
And that means, if that means help, if that means, staying, running away from that side, if that means, and I think this is what you were getting at just now, Chris, these quick release plays. And we saw several of them in East Rutherford where Rodgers would just turn to one side, fire to like a Jonnu Smith or fire to a DK Metcalf. And then it was up to those guys to beat the man in front of them, which, man, DK did one of those. He just murdered the guy with a move. Jonnu also beat somebody that way. Now, there are times where those plays will look awful for you. If they got you lined up and they tackle you, you look like, oh, well, here's the second time we're invoking his name. That looks like Matt Canada offense. But I understand why, if you're Arthur Smith, Aaron Rodgers, and everybody else of import on that offense, you'd want to move that ball sideways in either direction, because if they're going to come at you with everything they've got and they're going to pick on Jones, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You're eliminating your own weakness. You're saying you might be able to stop us, but you're going to need to do it with numbers on the fringes.
Yeah, and I think, at least offensively for the Steelers, like there was some meat left on the bone last week. Like there was one play in particular that stands out where DK just dropped a pass over the middle. He was running a shallow cross and Rodgers hit him in stride and he just dropped it. And if he catches that in stride, tucks it and runs, he might run past everybody. Like
that was my view on it. There was a, I don't want to call it a seam. I want to call it more of a SEA in front of him. That if he takes off there, nobody's catching him from that angle that he was running at, because he was running in a counter direction from where everybody else was, who was out there in the secondary. I know exactly what you're talking about. There was meat that was left out there on those plays.
Yeah.
But I agree with you on the quick plays. I still don't think you're going to see the stuff that Tomlin referenced in his press conference this week that he'd like to eventually get to, which is being able to air it out. He wants Rodgers to be able to drop back into the pocket, survey the field, and take his shots. You can't do that when your left tackle isn't getting the job done.
Really, really quick news here on the Seahawks front. A couple of key injuries that are going to affect this game. Nick Emenwari, the safety, is ruled out. Devin Witherspoon, cornerback that we were just talking about, is officially doubtful. So very likely he's not playing. So that is significant for the Seahawks, especially losing Witherspoon. He's a pretty dang good player, and I really think that hurts the Seahawks again. If you can exploit more quick game against and the other thing is that it works just like play action. If you can work a lot of the quick game and be efficient at it, eventually you'll be able to hit one over the top because the defense will creep down.
Yeah, that's one of the things, and I think this is what Dwight Jefferson's getting at here when he says the quick game is how past opponents have neutralized the Steelers' pass rush. It's true. Through the whole decade of the 2010s, that was the New England way. Brady wasn't exactly having a sandwich back there. He would get the snap, he'd find his Wes Welker du jour and hit him, and there he would go. But to amend something that I just said, these don't just have to be these little sideways.
There's stuff over the middle too.
Wide receiver screens. There's stuff where the receiver comes in and does this basically. Okay.
Going up the same.
And if you do that with someone who can really accelerate like Cal, or someone who's a natural at getting yards after the catch like a Jonnu, you're softening up that front in a big way. I mean, they can come in, hellbound to get to Aaron Rodgers, and we're going to pick on Broderick and everything else. It won't matter, because within less than a second, somebody's going to be running behind you, and you can be all fearsome and everything, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's one of the advantages to having the offense and the quarterback that the Steelers have this year. Yes, they want to be able to run the ball, but we saw last week what will happen if the Steelers cannot run the ball effectively. They can go to more quick game stuff and be able to move the ball that way. And also the fact that we saw, I mean, even the first drive that we saw 2 3rd and longs converted right away, like 3rd and 10. Like one was an in-breaker to Pat Freiermuth, which he caught and through contact and moved the change. And then the other one was thrown short of the 6 to Metcalf, and it was just one move, and he gets past everybody, and he gets a big chunk. You have a number of different ways that you can attack defenses, and yeah, you want to be able to run the ball, yes, because that also helps set up the play action. And we saw what Rodgers can do out of play action last week. But if things go wrong, and things sometimes do in games, you have the quick game to rely on. And Rodgers is a savant at running quick game. That he's done West Coast stuff all throughout his career.
Randy Wagner says Cooper Kupp only had 3 targets. Smith-Njigba had 13. Who knows who Sam Darnold will be looking for when he drops back? Don't forget, Kupp was another one of those names all this summer. You bring him in, he's going to be that guy. Well, he hasn't been that guy for a while now.
Yeah, he's still a guy that I think you have to be mindful of, but is he the same guy that he was when he was offensive player of the year type of guy? No. He's not that guy anymore. He's not as explosive as he used to be. He also doesn't, and this is nothing against Clint Kubiak, but he also doesn't have Sean McVay as the guy who's trying to scheme him open either. So that's also a pretty significant change there too.
Jeffrey Sanders says that YA Black is his new favorite nose tackle. I don't know if he's a nose tackle or not, but I do know that I spent a quality minute with him today on video for you, and I'm going to share that with you in this split second. Try it again.
YA Black, Terrell Austin has said he's expecting to see more of you out there this weekend. What's that mean to you?
We'll get out there when I get out there. When I get the opportunity, I'm gonna take it.
Do you see yourself traditionally as a volume guy? Because there's some big men in this game where they're like, you have to be careful with them.
I don't know. Never really thought about it that way. I just, when you get in there, you get in there. So that's it.
What's going to be imperative to stopping the run?
Just getting off blocks. It comes down to blocking and tackling, and on our side of the ball, we just got to get off blocks and make the tackle.
How do you feel it went for you?
It wasn't too bad. Not a bad start.
No, did you feel more comfortable as each additional snap came along? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Being real here, you're out there for the first time.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, but no.
Dude, he seems really nervous, doesn't he? It's unbelievable. He talks like he plays, which is to say that it's just a game. I'm just going to separate people. Mm-hmm. I'm going to fling humans aside, and that's going to be it.
Yeah, he's a fun guy to talk to.
So we're going to find out whether or not he plays additionally to some significant extent, but we already know that he's going to play more than he did because Terrell Austin made that public yesterday. Not that should have been any, big shocking thing. YA Black is right now someone who you would want out there ahead of Isaiah Loudermilk. He might be somebody that you'd want out there ahead of Keanu Benton, but nose tackle, I don't know. It all depends on how anybody's defining that this week, I guess.
Well, that's what he was whenever he was at Iowa. He was more of an interior, nose tackle type at Iowa, and that's why it was a bit surprising when they drafted him and Carl Dunbar said, no, we're going to play him as primarily a defensive end, the 4-eye technique. in the Steelers 3-4, and that kind of took a lot of people by surprise because it's like he was a nose at Iowa. But whenever they explain the way they explained it, like, listen, we love his size. He's hard to move, and that's why he can play closer to the ball, which is also directly over the center. But he also has 35-inch arms, and that helps you beat offensive tackles in the NFL. So if you can be quick enough off the ball and you can use that length to your advantage, which we've seen Black do even in the Jets game, you can play a number of techniques. And that goes into what Terrell Austin talked about when I asked him yesterday about how the nose tackle position has evolved, that it's not just a Casey Hampton type or a Joel Steed type. In which you have to just, okay, here you go, you're lining up over the center every single play, doesn't matter what you're doing. And that's no, it's not. Football is not like that anymore. Versatility is required because of the vast number of formations in 11 personnel, and you have to be able to play multiple techniques. And thankfully, Black is one of those guys where he's not just a nose. He can play up and down. He can play a number of techniques, and the Steelers really, really need versatile guys like that.
Greg comes in with a $20 contribution. That's appreciated. Thanks, man. He says, hey, DK and Chris, I'm listening from China today.
Ooh.
It seems to me that the Steelers coaching staff is more interested in looking smart, as Tunch Ilkin would have said, paralysis by analysis. I don't think it's a matter of them trying to look smart. I've never gotten that from them. I think it's more, in a way, the opposite, in that they want to try to avoid looking like they made a mistake. It's more of a defensive posture. They don't want to fix things that they've already screwed up, because they want to just keep things as they were, because it's very clear to everybody that you needed to adjust and didn't. Does that make sense, Chris? It's different than trying in advance to say, look at us, we're clever. If you want to show everybody, for example, that you're trying to look smart, that's the old, let's do 75 flea flickers and gadget plays and we'll fool them and fake punts and everything else. There's a time and a place for that stuff. But if you're doing it just for the purposes so that everybody can say, wow, that was just brilliant coaching, man. Way to go. That's trying to do something to look smart. What they do is different.
Yeah. Listen, I think when it comes to, especially last week, I think there are a number of things that are true. It's not just one thing. It's not just two things. And yes, we've talked about, and I've reported on the players getting frustrated over not being aggressive enough, and that in-game adjustment made, and how it produced results. Yes, that can be true. But also, and this is going to pour water on a lot of people's opinions, and they're probably not going to like it, and that's fine. But I do think part of this, from what we saw last week, is just the fact that there was nothing on that version of the Jets to prepare for. Nothing. You can't even look at preseason tape and think, oh, yeah, this is what they're going to be. No, because they're not showing what they're going to do. No.
Preparing for an opponent that did not exist.
This is an offensive coordinator. This is a completely different offensive coordinator. This is Justin Fields in a system he has not yet played in. This is Aaron Glenn, who's the head coach. Yes, he's more of a defensive guy, but it's still his overall philosophy that has an impact on how the offense is run and what they want to do offensively. It's just a completely different team, even though it's a lot of the same offensive linemen, including a new first-round right tackle. It's the same running backs. It's a lot of the same receivers. I understand that, but it's still a completely different system. And I think part of that issue on Sunday was the fact that they had to make adjustments in game, because you can only game plan for so much. And if you guess wrong, it's going to look bad, but it's still a guess because you don't have any film to base things off of.
Randy Wagner says that the interviewer on that YA Black appearance delivered perfectly. YA's smile appears to appreciate that kind of delivery immensely. He's see the smile.
Smiling.
Randy, I will pass along that compliment to the interviewer, care of Morley Safer at 60 Minutes, or Mike Wallace at 6, or Leslie Stahl, the greatest interviewers of all. Leslie Stahl might have been better than any of them. The 60 Minutes crew.
Yeah.
Like, if I was ever getting investigated for something, I would not want Leslie Stahl knocking on the door.
Yeah.
Dwight Jefferson says, could the Benton Black positioning be toward creating mismatches? There's only so long I can keep this up from the standpoint that they're not good. Okay, the Seahawks aren't good. If the Steelers aren't shutting this team down, then they have much bigger systemic / personnel / everything problems than whatever it was that we would have thought after the opener. So let's just say that these guys aren't good, and go ahead and just get the job done. Just get the job done. How about that?
Yeah, listen, this is a team that is beatable. This is a game the Steelers really need to win, and they better have a fire lit under their collective rear ends in this one to really try to shut down the run. I mean, this has got to be one of those games, I think, more for just helping just put that stinker, get the monkey off their back. This has got to be one of those games where they just got to hold the Seahawks to like 50 or 60 yards on the ground, something like that. They got to completely shut down the run and make Sam Darnold beat you. And yes, in doing that, you might end up giving up a few chunk plays, but I think you have to be okay with that and trust that your defense, when they get into a shorter field, is going to hold defenses to field goals or even still be able to take the ball away. But as long as you are forcing Darnold to be the one to beat you, and you make that offense one-dimensional, then you stand a much better chance of creating splash, creating turnovers, getting sacks. You stand a much better chance doing that. And yeah, this, I think collectively, however they get it done, whether that's through run blitzes, whether that's through better scheming, whether that's through just being better, like the players playing better, it's probably got to be a collection of all that. But at the same time, yeah, like they got to get it done. They got to get it done. They got to stop.
That's really all this is. It's a great place to finish for the week. Reminder to everybody that we do our actual work on the DK Pittsburgh Sports app. We've had people in this live chat repeatedly asking the same questions about participation injury. This stuff's been on the app for 45 minutes now. Just open the app. We don't bite, I swear. If we ever got to the point where our software was advanced enough that we could do things like biting you if you opened the app, we would probably prioritize other things that we want to get done on that app instead of that. Download the DK Pittsburgh Sports app onto your Apple or Android device. After you do that, email me. I'm going to be sitting right over here taking your emails. DK@DKPittsburghSports.com. Do I have to type that? Can you figure out that you have to spell that out? DK@DKPittsburghSports.com. And just say, hey, I got the app. You're really annoying me with all these mentions of the app. So I'm going to go ahead and get your app, and I'm going to ask you for the premium level and the massive discount that you're offering. We can do that. And Chris and I will be back with a Sunday morning pregame show from Acrisure Stadium. So thanks for watching, everybody.